set. Okay, guys, welcome back to another story time episode. So this one's gonna be a little different. I thought it would be cool and kind of a little special for you guys. A lot of you have asked what goes down during the big wipeouts, what is happening underwater. So I thought I'd talk a little about my most recent big wipeout in Tahiti at Chopes. Basically just gonna go really into depth on the reason why I failed, what I try to do once I failed on the wipeout, and then how the wipeout turned out and the beatdown that preceded. So let's get into it. I'll start into basically just why I think the wave went wrong from the beginning. And the first and main one would be, I think, is overconfidence. Some people just have connections, I feel like, with certain waves. I feel I've always had a special connection with Chopes and Tahiti. Certain waves fit certain people's surfing, so I've just had incredible times out there, and I've had tons of years of experience, which inevitably leads to such things as overconfidence. That day, that morning, it was a really long period, so tons of water drawing off the reef was making the mid face of the wave a little different than normal. Usually Chopes is the absolute best facing, like the face of the barrel is as perfect as you'd ever want a barrel to be. As gnarly and as big as it is, it's the most perfect face of a barrel, most of the time. Longer period, that face starts to change a little bit. And that's what I was doing, is kind of this weird mid-step thing. I had gotten one in the morning and I was like, perfect paddle day, there's tow bombs coming, like this is what we came here for, this is sick. I'm on, whatever. Set came, I was like, let's do this. What tricked me was I got in early, and my whole theory with drops has always been, at Chopes and anywhere, take the drop straight, then deal with what comes next. Always go straight first. And by that I mean aiming towards the beach, take the steep drop, and then once you're at the complete bottom of the wave, you turn and deal with what's next. Chopes throw so far that you have way more time than you think when you go straight and then turn. A lot of places you have to turn a little quicker and it makes it scarier. But the reason for that being is if you turn too early, you put pressure on your front leg, causing, if you do disconnect a little bit, instead of landing straight airdropping like this and then continuing, then engaging fins and turning, you airdrop and then your pressure's on your front foot, so your back part of your board lifts, your fins disengage, and you go into the death spin. Pretty much exactly what I did, and kind of exactly what happened to me. I got overconfident. I looked down the line too early because I felt I had gotten in, not taking into account that there's that mid-face step to deal with still. Once I realized, oh my God, I'm airdropping, I was like, I'm fine, I'm gonna sink this rail in as soon as I land. It never really works like that. Sometimes if your board is really thin, it does. For me, I like really thick boards, and the rails on this board were way more thick than usual, so that was the furthest thing from happening. If I had gone straight, like I preach about big drops, and I think I would have made the drop for sure. I would have landed straight, your fins land straight, boom, then you bottom turn. Overconfidence led to me thinking I had the drop, I was good to go. Oh, I'm gonna turn down the line already. And right when I turned down the line, I disengaged from the wave because there was that little chop thing. Boom, fell because of reason number one, overconfidence. Never underestimate a wave like Chopes, or any wave for that matter. They're all pretty dangerous. Anyway, the other reason being, I've had disengagements like that and then fell, and kind of your body falls into the water, and you can then sink your rail and use it to pop back up. I was on a board that had, the volume was 34 liters, I think, so it didn't quite penetrate like I wanted to. Instead of cutting water, it was planing on water. And when you have a board which is incredible for paddling, you get in early, any kind of chop or bump or thing like that, when you re-land, it's not going to cut in and you're not going to stick to the face anymore. That board's going to plane across it because of that thick rail. It's buoyant, way more buoyant. And so when I landed and tried to sink in like I would normally do at pipe or something, all it did was buck me and bounce me. And then at that point, I was like falling after the bounce, falling over over my front leg, thinking like, where did my leg strength go? This is not gonna be good. So quickly just watching the Wipeout. I don't know if you guys can see this. Paddling, I'm in early, I stand up, I look down the line, not good. See already my nose, look where my nose is. The nose is turning down the line right there. And what happens? Front foot, you're turning down the line, disengage on that little airdrop, back tail slides out, rail doesn't sink into water because of the thickness, planing, bounce, over front leg. This is not looking good. Right there, that was the mistake. Turning down the line too early versus going straight, would have landed, then engaged rail here, and then bottom turn, double pump, no hand, let's go. One more time. Look down the line, overconfidence, start to turn, tail slides out, rail doesn't engage, bounce, over the front rail, see you later, alligator. Now, the worst wipeouts are the ones that you tried to make till the end. When you know you're going down from the beginning of the wave, as soon as you stand up, you can fall how you want. And that's a jump, you're gonna pencil dive, you're gonna try and get out the back. When you try and stick it and you think you're gonna stick it and just maybe, and then it bucks you, these are usually the most violent wipeouts because you're not falling in any way that you want anymore. You've lost the control of the fall, if that makes sense. I fell and I started sliding and I looked up thinking, one, this is not good, and two, I really blew that wave. So here's where I think will be fun for you guys. Usually, right here, boom, that's where I looked up, blew the wave, this isn't looking good, start to sink, okay. Once I do that, I try and dive my body to get penetration in the water because you don't want to be on that surface in the barrel. Penetration in the water. And then when I'm going over the falls, I always try and, if you can, pop your head out and get that breath. You know, as you're getting sucked over, you can catch a breath, sometimes your head will pop up. But I also will try and throw myself, so the wave is breaking, you come through here, take that breath. A lot of times you can throw your body into that next explosion, and that way you don't go straight down, straight to the most impactful part of the wave, which usually goes to the reef. You can get yourself into that second explosion, and then you're kind of in that pocket of whitewater already, versus having to be in the most tumultuous impact, chaos, most power and energy of the wave, which you will be if you let yourself just get sucked over. Usually you can throw yourself. This wipeout, I did try and do that, but I wasn't far enough going over. I fell late enough that I was in like a thicker part of the white or the lip. I tried to throw myself into that like next explosion. So for example, I fall, I get sucked up and over. Right there, I try to go through over into the next explosion. Didn't make it. Okay, this is obviously not going well or as planned, which is the way of things, a big wipeout. I get sucked straight down, boom, big slam on, not the reef, just the water, just in that hard energy zone, boom, getting pounded, and then I have that feeling of like falling, right? So whenever I have that feeling of like I am moving downward, there's some sort of momentum and I'm falling downward, there's only so far you can fall. And what's at the bottom? The reef, right? So in the water, you have the advantage of being able to move your body and use your arms and legs to land how you would want to. Anytime I have that falling sensation, I always try and rotate my body so it's gonna be on hands and feet. Sacrifice hands and feet, forearms. If you see the cuts I had after, here's the scars, here, elbow, nothing on this elbow. and then I have scars on both of my feet because as I was falling, I rotated underwater, hoping, blindly putting it out. I mean, you have reflexes, and due to the pressure you can feel when you're kind of close. I landed straight on the reef on my forearms and feet. Luckily, had just gotten around in time. So again, if you feel that falling sensation, you're being driven downward. Instead of fighting, thinking going to surface, think of turning over and being able to land wherever you're going on your hands and feet. That's what happened. I landed on my hands and feet straight on the bottom. Okay, not like impact, but not like, ow, something's broken, you know. On the bottom, fine. My go-to once I'm on the bottom, get your feet planted under you. Again, nothing's ever perfect in a wipeout. You're getting worked, you're getting pushed around. Sometimes you're getting driven to the bottom and then smeared across it, and that really sucks. But that didn't happen this time. If that does happen, I usually try and get a run going across the reef with the momentum and then kick off. This time I just got planted hard straight. Got my feet under me, and then I do a jump to the surface. So screw the feet, screw cuts on the bottom of your feet if the reef is sharp. Goal is to get to the surface, right? Get back to air, get as close as you can. So planted my feet, jumped, and my leash pulled me straight back down. I was like, holy shit, like my leash is wrapped around something. I could feel my leash wasn't pulling my board. Usually you have the momentum of your leash pulling from the surface because that's where your board is tombstoning. My board or something, my leash was on the bottom, so I got pulled back down to the bottom. This is not good. I was reaching down to maybe see if I can undo my leash, and I felt it I gave it a test, and I felt that my leash was at the max capacity. So your leash, you can kind of feel on these big ones when it gets to a point, it stretches and stretches and stretches, and then it stops stretching. And that is the breaking point of the leash. It just needs a little more pressure. So I gave it a pull. Oh, my leash was not stretching anymore. It was just stiff. And then I yanked my leg as hard as I could. I wasn't on the bottom, but I was like kind of in a mid zone. Pop! My leash broke immediately as soon as I yanked my leg. And I did have an impact vest on, which means I had a little padded suit under my spring suit. So once the pressure of my leash holding me back released, and whatever was happening with the turbulence underwater, again, take this into perspective. This is all within a 10 to 15 second period. Like, all of this is happening in 10 to 15 seconds. As soon as my leash broke, boom, was able to swim, big swims, big pulls to the surface, got to the surface. I never like being disconnected from my board in big wipeouts because your board floats, right? It's the most buoyant thing around, and that's gonna guide you to the surface. In this instance, I didn't have that, that luxury. And once I was disconnected, the next wave was a little scary because you're sent to the bottom a lot faster and easier without your board stopping you. That didn't happen, luckily. I just put my head down on the next whitewater, which I don't ever dive under the next big whitewater coming. I don't try and go deep. I simply if it's shallow, put my head under, and then like I would do if I was getting sucked over trying to go into that next explosion, if a big whitewater is coming, put my head under and then go like that into the whitewater, trying to get yourself to the surface of the water, especially at chopes, because you're now going very fast over that mound of reef before the lagoon. Get to that surface of whitewater, kind of riding the momentum of that wave, and then I plane out starfish mode and just like, oh, it's suck in your belly, get as flat as you can, get washed over into the lagoon. Once you're in the lagoon, it's all good. Hopefully a ski is there to pick you up. Otherwise, you got a long paddle. If you were really hurt and there was no one to pick you up, you would be in kind of a pickle in there, and I would hope that you had some type of flotation on if the waves were big, because it is a very long swim in if there's no ski or anyone picking you up. So I think that's about it. The wipeout, as far as violence goes, it was an extremely violent one, but nothing I hadn't been through before. There's no way, I know you guys will ask, is there a way to practice for this? Unfortunately, the only way to practice for this kind of situations is to be in them more and more. You could go to some big shore breaks and practice things, like I said, of switching around and trying to land on your feet on the sand versus your freaking head or whatever. Like, if I feel I have no time and I'm being driven down and I can't spin, put your hands over your head. Don't, if you're going like a missile, don't think about freaking, you can splay out if you feel like you're far from the bottom, but if you feel you're close, then buckle up and cover up, because that shit's gonna come fast, and you don't ever want to hit something super exposed, especially the reef. What else is there? I'm trying to think of all the things. Just little insights I could give to you guys. Hopefully that was a fun little story time. Hopefully you guys can pick and choose what to take from it, or just found it interesting. I thought it would be a cool one to break down for you guys. A little bit about the mental, what happens after a big wipeout. I'd say my biggest adrenaline rushes have been from my wipeouts, right? And some of my highest highs have been from big, gnarly wipeouts. There's something about it, something of the, if you're not sent to the hospital injured, of course, you're like, fuck yeah, I survived, you know, I did it. Like, I can go out there again. I can handle another one of those. And it kind of gives you this confidence. Like, I've been through a big wipeout. I kind of know what it entails, and I'm ready to go out there and send it again. That day after the Chopes one, I just took a breather on the boat. It was hot, it was slow. We went in and had some lunch, and we went back out in the evening. I ended up having another big wipeout in the evening. The second one, first one gets you fired up to send it again. Second big wipeout's another story. You're more like, damn it, like, have I lost something? Like, what's going on? Like, why am I falling so much? It sucks. Like, you just don't want to, like, you don't want to be blowing waves, you know, that other people may have made. And you don't want to be kooking it. No. One big wipeout's cool. A couple in a row starts to get a little loose. You want to be smooth. You want to be calculated risk always. What else? So yeah, hopefully what you guys are watching is the replay of that big wipeout, and then some of the other waves we got down in Tahiti, and hopefully it was a fun little vibe. Hopefully this episode was a little different for you, and got to get some insight into what goes on in those big beatdowns. Again, it's all about you can't train for these things. It's just repetition in the wipeout, which is like, you're not going to go and just throw yourself over the falls. That's dumb. But there's things to think about. The whole don't panic thing, there's a lot of truth in it. There's also a lot of truth in, I didn't want to panic, but I simply did. I was out of breath and I was scared. That happens to me all the time. People think that we're scared or fearless, or there's nothing in our heads, and that we're total confidence all the time. No way. I have every single big swell. I have anxiety. I have my doubts. I get scared before the swell. I wonder, there's heavy consequences. Is it this swell? Could it be this one? Some things, it's the ocean. It's Mother Nature. You cannot predict it. As soon as you try and predict it, as soon as you get overconfident, look what happens. Mother Nature does not hesitate to slap you back into place. I feel lucky that I just got a beat down on that wave and not something worse. Anytime you get away with a wipeout like that, even if you're scraped up, you're lucky. You're lucky your head isn't bashed in or something worse like that, you know, because it easily could do that. Anyway, I'll end it with that positive little note there. You guys send it, have fun, be safe, be calculated, always calculate your risk, be as prepared as you could possibly be for when a situation like that does happen. Don't be dumb sending things, right? Don't send without first looking or calculating the wave, or a higher make ratio than fall ratio. Cool, I'll see you guys next week. Let me know in the comments if you like this style of story time. Like, subscribe. I'm kind of thinking I want to do one of these at each spot maybe, or for each big wipeout. Hopefully there's not too many of them when they do happen. And then any other in-depth breakdowns, you guys let me know. Got you. Signing off.
awesome.